In this video, I'll be reviewing the Eno Skylite Hammock. This is a spreader bar hammock, also called a bridge style hammock, and it is by far the most comfortable night's sleep I get in the outdoors. Now, the Skylight should not be confused with the Skyloft. That is also a bridge style hammock, but that's more of a backyard hammock. This is made for camping, bikepacking, backpacking. I'll be using it for my upcoming bikepacking season. So in this video, I'm going to set it up. I'll talk about some of the features that I like and some that I don't like. Now, I did a review of the Warbonnet Ridgerunner in the past. That was my foray into bridge style hammocks. And there are some things that I like better about the Warbonnet, and there are some things I actually like better about the Skylight. Now, the Skylight is quite a bit less expensive than the Warbonnet Ridgerunner. So this retails for 170 bucks, but Eno will often have sales, so you can get this for 20 to 25% off. They'll do that throughout the year a couple times. And so, yeah, you can get this for a really good deal. So I'm also in this video, as I set it up, I'm going to show the underquilt. I'm going to show how the Eno underquilt attaches to this. So I'll be using the Vulcan underquilt. That's one that's rated 30 to 50 degrees. And it attaches really easily to this. And you have to have an underquilt. If you're not familiar with hammock camping, you absolutely have to have an underquilt if it's below 80 degrees. And I'll just go ahead and mention that I personally do not sleep well in a gathered end hammock. That's the one that does not have the spreader bars. I just can't get into a position where I'm comfortable. I'm always fighting to get into that diagonal position, and I just can never sleep well. So that's why I love these bridge style hammocks. So let's get this thing set up. I'll show how you set it up, and then again how the underquilt attaches. For this setup, I'll be using Eno's Helios straps. These are what are referred to as whoopee slings. That's fun to say. You can also use the Atlas straps. You just need some carabiners to use those straps. So let's get this thing set up. So all we're going to do is wrap these around the tree. This is how the Atlas straps go into the tree too. They just got a loop on one end, and you just thread the rest of the strap through. On each end of the hammock, you've got these little toggles. So for the Helios straps, all you have to do is put the toggle through the loop on the end. If you're using the Atlas straps, you would put the carabiner right here in this loop and then just hook the carabiner onto the Atlas straps. And then we're just going to take the hammock and hook the toggle into the other strap. So what I found is you want the hammock to hang really low, because once you put the spreader bars in, the hammock's going to rise quite a bit off the ground. One of the things that I really like about the Skylight hammock is the spreader bars. They fit inside the bag. So when I showed the bag in the beginning of the video, the spreader bars were inside the bag. So everything's contained. Unlike the Warbonnet Ridgerunner hammock that I reviewed, those spreader bars are external to the hammock, so I had to get a bag on Amazon to keep those in. Also, I like the fact that these are shock corded, so you just can't lose the pieces. So they go together really easily, and both the head end and the foot end ones are the same size, so there's no confusion. You can just set it up, and it doesn't matter which side they go in. Very quick to put these through. There is a sleeve on each end of the hammock that you feed these through, and then you just put the little hooks onto the straps. There's a red part on the strap, and you just hook it around that red part, and they're good to go. Now, another thing that I really like about this hammock is the fact that these are much less likely to pierce a tarp. So the Warbonnet has a pointed end. A lot of people will put a cover over that. What happens with the bridge style hammock is, if you're not careful, when you get in, the hammock can rock up to the side, and if you're not careful, the pole, if it has a pointed end, could put a hole in your tarp. We'll do the same thing on the head end. There's a sleeve. You just feed the spreader bar through. Put the hooks on the red part of the strap. And it's pretty much set up from there. All you have to do is hook up the straps for the bug net, which we'll talk about. The bug net has a bungee, and there is a hook on the end. And all you have to do is hook it into that little loop there on the strap, which is really hard to do holding a camera with one hand. I've got the bug net attached on both ends. Very quick setup. The way a whoopee sling style strap works is the way it's braided, there's a free end that moves inside, and when there's tension on the hammock, it'll lock. And so what I do is I just put my thumb here to take tension off, and then I can pull one of these to make it looser, Got to find which one it is. So I can make it looser, or if I want to make it tighter, all I have to do is pull the string through and make it tighter. Eno says you want the trees to be 14 to 18 feet apart, and you want the hammock to be about 18 inches off the ground. And I found that about a 25-degree angle in the straps is ideal. I've also found with these style hammocks, you want the foot end to be about 6 inches higher than the head end. So the bug net just unzips on one side. Now there are two things that I actually like better about the Warbonnet, and I'll go ahead and say, first of all, that the bug net on the Warbonnet can zip completely off the hammock and tuck into the foot end. This one, you can only unzip one side. It does have little toggles so you can keep it out of the way like that, but that's as much as you're going to remove. So if you like sleeping completely under the stars and seeing everything, that is one downside to the Eno Skylight. The other thing that I really like about the Warbonnet is it has these saddlebags on both sides that you can access from within the hammock with the bug net zipped up, and it allows you to store a lot of stuff. Now there are pockets inside of this which are nice, so let me show those. You've got a pocket at the head end, and you've also got a pocket on the side, which are great for putting a phone or a headlamp. Now I found that putting a water bottle on the side pocket does not work very well because it obstructs you while you're sleeping. So you could put a small water bottle there and then put your phone or headlamp here on the side, but you just don't have a lot of pockets on this. So you're either keeping stuff kind of at the foot of the hammock or just keep it outside the hammock on the ground. I'm gonna put on the Vulcan underquilt, which again is a 30 to 50 degree underquilt. I find it better to flip these over. I do this with my Warbonnet too. You flip it over and then you hook up the underquilt, which goes on really quickly. So it's got some loops. So there's a little loop that you just hook around there, and you do it on all four corners. On each end of the underquilt, you've got this little bungee with a loop, and all we're gonna do is put this on the toggle, which is really hard to do with one hand, but you're just gonna loop it there onto the toggle. The straps on each end of the underquilt are hooked into the toggles. The last thing that we're gonna do is it's got some toggles here that go into the loop on the hammock. All right, those are in. So the underquilt, I'd say, takes about a minute to put onto this hammock. We'll just flip it over. So that's what it looks like with the underquilt on. And then it does have some loops here, so you can cinch up the underquilt. So with the underquilt, you want to make sure that when you're laying in it, it does not have airspace between the underquilt and the hammock, because you can get some wind blowing through there. I know that once I get my weight in there, that's going to be fine. So if it's like a really cold night and there's going to be a lot of wind, then you probably want to cinch those up pretty good. I'm actually going to sleep in this tonight. I'm testing out all of my insulation before I do a bike packing trip with this, which is really important to do in your backyard if you can, because you want to make sure you get your insulation right. So tonight I'm going to be using the Spark top quilt. This is a 40 to 60 degree top quilt. I sleep kind of cold, so I add about 10 degrees. Tonight's supposed to be in the upper 40s. So this is the top quilt that I'm going to use. The Vesta top quilt is a 30 to 50 degree top quilt that combines well with the Vulcan underquilt. They're both 30 to 50. The only other thing that you really need is a pillow. So with the tent, you need a ground cloth, you need a sleeping pad, and of course the sleeping bag or top quilt. So it's about the same amount of gear as this, it's just different, and you're off the ground. Now I'm not going to use a tarp tonight because there's no chance of rain, but you're off the ground, so if it does rain, you don't have water coming under your tent, which is a pain. So yeah, like I said at the beginning of the video, this is hands down the most comfortable night's sleep that I get. And then once I get in here, you'll see that the hammock will kind of sag down. I mentioned that you want it to be about 18 inches off the ground. And these hammocks are great because you're not fighting to get into the right position. You can just lay like this. You can lay on your side. I sleep on my side a lot. I'll just show you that with these bridge style hammocks, it is so easy to lay on your side. And I mean, I sleep like a baby in this thing. That's my review of the Eno Skylight Hammock. Highly recommended. Look for them to go on sale if you've never tried hammock camping, or if you've tried hammock camping in a gathered in hammock and like me, you just couldn't get comfortable. Give this thing a shot. I probably will never tent camp again unless I'm just at a place where there's no trees. But if there's trees and I can get them 14 to 18 feet apart, this is my go-to. I'll also be using the Warbonnet, especially in really cold weather, because I've got a 0-degree underquilt for that one. So if it's super cold, like in the 20s, maybe even in the teens, I would use that. But if it's above probably 35 to 40 degrees, this Skylight is great. Like I said, I like how everything compacts into one bag. The spreader bars and the hammock go into one bag. So it's a great setup. Any questions or comments that you have about this, drop those below. And of course, if you've used one of these, let us know your thoughts. Thanks for watching.